Guys, I just found a really rare Volvo and I was able to get it. Check it out. Now, I know what a lot of y'all are going to be saying. This is not a rare Volvo, but let me tell you, in my area, I see maybe 2 or 3 240s driving around in a year, and never any 2-doors and never any 240 turbos. Not to mention, it's an M46 car, so I was super stoked to find it. Check out the interior. It is in pretty good condition, all things considered. So I picked this car up from a guy named Bob who had this thing for 40 years. I think he said he's owned it since 1984 or so. It's a 1981 car, and he had it. He's the second owner. He's had it nearly since new. And it's actually pretty cool because I've known of this car for a long time. It's local to me. It was a good friend of mine's, one of his roommates' stepdad or something along those lines. And so we've known this car existed and where it was for quite a long while. So shout out Brandon if you ever watch this. Thank you for letting me know this car was for sale. Now, let's look under the hood. Now, I don't know if I would call this guy necessarily an enthusiast, but he definitely did love this car, and he knew what IPD was. So he's got the chassis brace in the strut bar, the undercar braces. The intercooler was added after the fact. This is a 1981. And he loved this car. He owned it for over 40 years, so he definitely, it was his passion for a while. Now, this car is definitely not without its issues. Let's see. You see the trunk sill, or whatever you want to call this, is a little crusty, so it'll have to be addressed. There is one spot somewhere up under here on the floorboards that has deteriorated, so need a floorboard there. I think there's one spot on the passenger fender, which I feel like is a pretty weird place to rust, that he put some stuff on, which may have helped or maybe not, but overall it's really solid. A couple other minor issues here and there, but not bad overall. It's got this really cool, I don't know if you can see it, Volvo OEM or dealer added spoiler, which I think is actually pretty cool. But overall, really complete car. The Virgos look great. They're dirty, but no real curb rash to speak of. They look nice. Now, I did notice a few things on our drive home. I've only driven it just a few miles, but some things I noticed. The coolant gauge doesn't seem to be working. So if you got any idea what that could be, I'm sure it's just the sensor or the gauge itself, one of the two, is broken. It seems to have a hard time steering to the right, like it's stiff, but to the left is easier. So I'm pretty sure that can just be adjusted on the steering rack, so I've got to investigate that a little bit further. He discovered at some point that floorboard down there that was rusty because it was leaking through the windshield, so he figured he was gonna stop the windshield from leaking by any means necessary. So he's like put this goop all the way around the entire windshield, so hopefully I can get to that at some point. He's also done something similar along the sunroof seal, which isn't nearly as bad, but probably needs to be undone before I can really open it up. The clear coat's peeling, not really worried about that. Needs new tires, which will need to be addressed before I drive it any kind of distance. They got some cracks on the sidewall. So as far as plans for the car, the first things first is just going to be addressing all the rust to try and prevent it from getting any worse. Those few spots at minimum. Gonna have to rip out the interior and check out how bad the rust really is on the floorboards. That's gonna be the first thing I want to address. I've driven old Volvos for probably 15 years or so, but they've always been 7 and 940s, so I've got really no clue about the K-Jet that's on this car. I've always had LH 2.4 cars. I might take you up front and show you my 940, but K-Jet's a thing. Not really sure about it. It actually seems to run pretty well, so I may just run it as long as I can, as long as it wants to run well, and then maybe one day far down the line consider an LH 2.2 swap or something along those lines. That seems to be what people do when the K-Jet starts acting up. But beyond that, just the rust repair. It's going to need some suspension work. The strut mounts look to be in terrible shape, and I mean, I'll probably want to do something with the suspension anyways, just because that's what I enjoy most about working on the cars. But if I can get it really just running well and driving nice, like that will be ideal for this car. My 940 is more of a project. It's got the 19T and everything on it, the typical Turbo Bricks recipe. So this one I hope to just make more of a driver. Here's the 940. Like I said, mostly just a Turbo Bricks recipe project car. I've got a great video that my daughter and I made about swapping the 19T into this thing, so maybe I can figure out how to put a link on there. But it's got a big intercooler and cam and the 19T, so pretty run-of-the-mill 940 wagon, I would say. He's even got the drilled and slotted rotors in there too. Looks like some nice pads. I think he said he had a K&N air filter in there, so he definitely did love this car for a while. He has given me a bunch of spare parts. Seems like anytime the car needed something, he didn't necessarily get around to fixing it, but he always bought the part. And so he gave me a bunch of spare parts. I've actually got more spare parts I need to go pick up from him. And one of the best things about buying this car is that it comes with a whole parts car, which I'm supposed to be getting this weekend. It's another two-door turbo car in like a burgundy reddish color. That's kind of been ripped apart, but for a parts car, you can't beat it. This hood is a bit crusty, but as mentioned, there's a whole parts car and a slew of extra parts, so it actually has a spare hood that I'll be able to replace this one with. You know, if I want a mix-matched colored car, but actually doesn't look too bad aside from those little spots there. Front end looks pretty nice, grill's in good shape, headlights are all there, they're working. The air dam looks in good condition. So, you know, I would usually just make a like a build thread on Turbo Bricks or what have you, but YouTube is paying me out a few pennies every once in a while now, so I think it would be in my best interest just to kind of make a video series on it. It'll give me some content to make since this is going to be an ongoing project, it seems like. Alright, so that's really all I've got for this video. I just wanted to get kind of a base starting point to start like a project thread before I start ripping the interior and everything else apart. I'm sure I'm going to have lots of questions along the way, so if you've got any interest in the old 240s or Volvo turbos in general, please follow along, because I'm sure I'll have lots of questions. But that's going to be it. Thanks for watching.